Welcome, scary voice, to the world of darkness, where every sound hides a terrifying story. Here, fear isn't just heard, it's felt. But be careful, if you're listening in the dark, you might not be alone. Story number 1. The Babysitter's Last Call. It was supposed to be a simple Friday night in the quiet suburb of Maplewood, Ohio. The Andersons were attending a charity gala downtown, and their regular babysitter, Lena Hart, a responsible 19-year-old college student, agreed to watch their 2 kids, Emily, 7, and Jack, 5, until midnight. Lena had babysat for them countless times. She knew the house, the kids, and the family routines like the back of her hand. But that night, something felt off the moment she stepped inside. The air was unusually cold, despite the heater being on, and a faint hum came from somewhere in the walls. She brushed it off as the house settling. Old suburban homes often had quirks. After the kids went to bed around 9 p.m., Lena settled into the living room, scrolling through her phone. The only light came from a small lamp and the flickering glow of a muted TV. At 9:47 p.m., Lena's phone buzzed with a call from Mrs. Anderson, but when she picked up, the line was dead. A second later, she got a text. "Did you lock the back door?" She immediately froze. She had come in through the front earlier. The back door led to the patio and opened into a tree line behind the property. She tiptoed to the kitchen, flicked on the light, and saw that the back door was open, gently swaying in the cold autumn wind. Her heart pounded. She was sure it was locked earlier. She shut it and slid the deadbolt firmly into place. She texted back, "Yes, just locked it now. It was open." But Mrs. Anderson didn't reply. She assumed maybe they were in a loud room and hadn't seen it. She returned to the living room, but a creaking sound echoed from upstairs. Jack had a habit of sneaking out of bed to ask for water, so she went up quietly to catch him. But both Jack and Emily were sound asleep. Then she heard it again, the creak. But this time, it came from the hall closet across from the kids' rooms. Her throat dried. The door was closed, but the sound was unmistakable. Something inside shifted. She forced herself to open it. Nothing, just coats, shoes, and some board games. She laughed nervously at her own paranoia and went back downstairs. At 10:28 p.m., Lena received another text, but this one wasn't from Mrs. Anderson. It came from an unknown number. "Don't go upstairs again." Her blood turned to ice. She immediately tried calling Mrs. Anderson again, but the call failed. Her hands shook as she dialed 911, but before she could hit call, the house phone rang, a piercing sound in the silence. She picked it up with trembling fingers. "Hello?" Heavy breathing. No words, just slow, deliberate breathing. She slammed the phone down, her heart pounding so loud she could hear it in her ears. Lena ran to the kids' room, locked the door from inside, and whispered to Jack to stay quiet. She dialed 911 again from her mobile. This time, the call went through. She explained everything quickly, and the dispatcher told her officers were on their way. As she spoke, she heard footsteps downstairs, slow, heavy, not like a burglar searching quickly, like someone who already knew the layout. The dispatcher told her to stay on the line and keep the kids safe. She crouched by the door, clutching a small lamp like a weapon. The footsteps moved to the base of the stairs and then stopped. Then, unbelievably, she heard a second set of footsteps coming from upstairs, but from behind the wall, near the attic hatch. She felt dizzy. There was no way someone could be up there. Mr. Anderson had mentioned once that the attic wasn't used. It was sealed off, except for a small crawl space. Suddenly, the attic door creaked open by itself. Lena screamed. The dispatcher yelled, "Stay calm! Officers are minutes away!" The upstairs footsteps grew louder, descending the hallway toward the kids' room. Someone was in the attic the whole time. The door handle to the kids' room started to rattle violently. Just then, police sirens wailed outside. Red and blue lights flooded the windows. The rattling stopped. Officers pounded on the front door, and within seconds, they were inside, shouting commands. Lena opened the door slowly, sobbing. The officers swept the house and quickly found evidence that someone had been living in the attic crawl space for days. Food wrappers, water bottles, even a sleeping bag. But the intruder had vanished. No signs of forced entry, no footprints leading into the woods. It was as if he'd evaporated. They assumed he fled when the sirens came. The twist came 2 weeks later. The Andersons had installed new locks, security cameras, and motion sensors. One evening, police arrested a man loitering near their backyard. It was their former babysitter, Daniel, who had worked for them the previous summer. He confessed during questioning. He had been living in their attic crawl space for almost 3 weeks, watching them at night, waiting for the right time to kidnap Emily. He used a hidden key he had duplicated months earlier to sneak in and out without them noticing. The shocking part, the first text Lena received, supposedly from Mrs. Anderson, was actually sent by Daniel using a Wi-Fi spoofing app to disguise his number. He had been watching her from the attic vents using the house's Wi-Fi. And the second set of footsteps, that was a motion-triggered audio recording he had set up in the walls to scare anyone who found him too early. He wanted to disorient his victims. If Lena hadn't locked herself with the kids upstairs and called 911 immediately, he would have struck that night. Moral? Evil doesn't always knock on the door. Sometimes it's already inside.
Story number 2, The Vanishing Neighbor. In the quiet lakeside community of Lakeview, Michigan, neighbors knew each other by name. It was the kind of place where people waved from their porches, kids rode bikes past trimmed lawns, and summer nights smelled like barbecues and campfires. So when Ellen Ward, a retired teacher who had lived on Maple Court for 32 years, suddenly disappeared one chilly November evening, the entire neighborhood was shaken to its core. Ellen lived alone in a small blue house at the end of the cul-de-sac. She was kind, punctual, and loved her evening walks. Every day at 7:30 p.m. sharp, she'd grab her flashlight and stroll the same loop around the lake, greeting anyone she met. But on November 12th, Ellen never came back. The night she vanished. Rachel Turner, her next-door neighbor, noticed Ellen's porch light was still on at 10 p.m. Odd, because Ellen always turned it off before bed. She knocked, but got no answer. She peeked through the curtains and saw the living room lights glowing. TV still on. Ellen's coat and walking shoes were gone. The next morning, her mailbox was stuffed with newspapers. Rachel called the police. Sheriff's deputies launched a search immediately. They combed the wooded path around the lake, dragged the water, and brought in canine units. Nothing. It was as if Ellen had stepped into the night and dissolved. Rachel told police Ellen had mentioned a new neighbor who moved into the house across the street 2 weeks earlier, a quiet man in his 40s named Dean Coleman. He kept to himself and often worked on his truck late at night. Investigators visited Dean, who cooperated fully. He said he'd been home all night fixing a flat tire. His alibi seemed solid. There was no evidence linking him to Ellen's disappearance. The investigation stalls. Weeks passed. Flyers were stapled to telephone poles, volunteers canvassed nearby towns, and the local news ran nightly updates. But Ellen remained missing. Rachel couldn't let it go. She'd been close to Ellen. They shared coffee every morning on Ellen's porch. Rachel began walking Ellen's usual route each night, hoping to notice something police had missed. On December 4th, Rachel saw something strange. Ellen's flashlight wedged in the roots of a tree near the lake trail. Police had already searched that area extensively, yet it somehow had been missed or placed there later. The flashlight had no fingerprints, not even Ellen's. That sent a chill down Rachel's spine. A hidden clue. Out of desperation, Rachel installed a cheap security camera facing the street. She figured maybe she'd catch something suspicious. For 2 nights, nothing happened. But on the 3rd night, around 2:17 a.m., the camera captured something unsettling. A person wearing Ellen's winter coat walked slowly down the street, dragging what looked like a trash bag toward the woods. The footage was grainy, but the walk was distinct. Rachel knew Ellen's gait. It was slow, careful, with a slight limp from her hip surgery. This walk was different. Police analyzed the footage and determined the figure was taller than Ellen. The bag was never recovered. The community grew paranoid. People locked their doors earlier. Neighborhood watch patrols increased. Rachel barely slept. The basement door.
On December 22nd, Rachel noticed something new. Dean's truck was gone, but his basement door was wide open, light spilling out into the snow. She walked across the street and peeked inside. The basement smelled strongly of bleach. She saw a stack of plastic containers, rope, and what looked like an old chest freezer plugged in at the back. Her heart pounded. She backed away quickly and called the sheriff. Deputies arrived and searched Dean's property thoroughly. To everyone's shock, they found nothing illegal. The freezer contained only frozen meat. The bleach and rope were explained as part of a renovation project. Dean seemed irritated but calm. Without solid evidence, they couldn't hold him. Still,
Rachel couldn't shake the feeling something was deeply wrong. The phone call. On New Year's Eve, Rachel's landline rang at exactly 11:59 p.m. She answered groggily. "Rach," a weak, trembling voice whispered. It was Ellen. Rachel shot upright. "Ellen, where are you? Are you okay?" But the line crackled, and then a click. The call had come from a blocked number. Police traced it. It originated from a payphone outside a truck stop 70 miles away off I-75. Surveillance footage showed only a man in a dark jacket using the phone. His face was obscured by a hood. The call reignited the investigation, but Ellen wasn't found. The shocking discovery. In late January, a snowstorm hit Lakeview, followed by a thaw that flooded the lake trail. Maintenance crews clearing a fallen tree made a grim discovery. Beneath the roots, in a shallow pit, were Ellen's remains, wrapped tightly in industrial plastic sheeting and duct tape. She'd been strangled, then hidden under the tree. But here was the disturbing part. The pit showed signs of being dug and reopened multiple times. Whoever had buried her had returned to the scene repeatedly. DNA on the plastic matched Rachel Turner. Police obtained a warrant and searched Rachel's house. In her garage freezer, beneath layers of frozen food, they found Ellen's purse, flashlight, and a pair of gloves with blood on them. Rachel broke down during interrogation. She confessed. The twist. Rachel and Ellen had been friends for years, but Ellen had discovered that Rachel had been forging checks from her deceased husband's account, stealing thousands of dollars. Ellen had threatened to go to the police. On November 12th, Rachel offered to walk with Ellen around the lake to talk things out. An argument broke out. Rachel pushed Ellen, who fell and hit her head on a tree. Panicked, she strangled her to make it look like a kidnapping. She buried the body, but returned multiple times to move evidence around, planting the flashlight later to redirect suspicion. She even staged the late-night footage by wearing Ellen's coat herself, knowing she'd appear taller and different. And the phone call? Rachel used a voice-changing app and drove to the truck stop at night to make it look like Ellen was alive. She almost got away with it. Rachel was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Moral: sometimes the real monster isn't the stranger across the street. It's the friend next door.